Neera Tanden. What do
Yes.
you think? Is that?
I think she's great. I think she's incredibly well qualified. And oh no, she said some mean tweets. You know, you have Republicans that spent 4 years pretending they didn't know what Twitter was. I don't read Twitter. I didn't see any tweets. And now they're going to be all outraged and having the vapors because somebody used Twitter. I mean, to say something mean about somebody else. I mean, it's patently absurd. And they did it to Deb Haaland too. You know, in the Secretary of Interior. What do you call it? The hearings, right? Where they were like, "Oh, you said that Republicans don't believe in science." They don't. I mean, first of all, truth is a defense, objectively so. But beyond that, are we really going to pretend now that a mean tweet is something that's disqualifying after they spent 4 years pretending that Donald Trump's Twitter account did not exist? Like it's, you know, just like they're starting to pretend to care about the deficit again. I mean, this stuff is just absolutely ridiculous. And I got to say, Mark, in the past, they would have gotten traction with it. And I'm not getting the sense that they're getting much, Republicans are getting much traction now. They're still playing off this playbook where they can get the media and Democrats all, you know, hyperventilating about bipartisanship. And, you know, that ship has sailed. Nobody cares anymore. Particularly when you look at bipartisanship, you redefine it the way Joe Biden has as the American people. And things like the relief bill is legitimately bipartisan. And because Republicans, if you ask Republicans, rank and file, they agree with it. The child tax credit. I bet you QAnon people are going to agree with that one, right? I mean, they're going to have a choice in 2022 whether to vote for you know, a Republican or lose their, you know, vote for a Republican and lose their check, or stick with the Democrats and keep getting those child credit checks every month. So delivering for people is going to be critical. People actually like it, and Mitch McConnell no longer gets to decide what's bipartisan anymore, and that I think makes it different. Doesn't mean they're not going to be hypocritical, because they are, just like with Neera Tanden, but I think they're getting a lot less traction with it now.
Is it that? How much of it too, though, is Bernie and his supporters? Because a lot of tweets were directed at him.
I mean, it's part of it, but the opposition really in the Senate right now is from Republicans and Joe Manchin. I mean, there's no, and you know why Joe Manchin is pissed, because because his daughter is a big pharma exec, and Neera Tanden actually criticized her for, I forget what exactly, but it was some big pharma screw people over deal. So apparently he's taking it personally, but I mean, has even Bernie Sanders said he's not going to vote for her? I don't think so, but
yeah, no, he's been quiet. But some people think, you know, I mean, his supporters often go beyond him, and so that, but
they're not a factor. In fact, I think a lot of those the sort of the really strident Bernie crowd is almost self-disqualifying in a way that their politics are kind of a joke, and they're easy to dismiss because there's no sense of proportionality or reality in a lot of that. And I know that crowd hates me a lot because I'll say stuff like that. But politics is the art of what's possible within a given environment. So to me, what's important is making making progress and moving things forward, and not going for the pony that's, you know, that it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's a good point. The hearings on the insurrection. What was your takeaway from that this week? I mean, obviously, we'll stipulate Ron Johnson is a fool.
Yeah, I was going to say my takeaway is I can't wait for 2022. Because Ron Johnson is going to be public enemy number one. I can't imagine another Republican that's going to be more heavily targeted than he is. I can't believe he's still going on with the big lie. On that front, there's this talk about a commission, right? Like a 9/11 style commission. And you already have Kevin McCarthy saying that putting up roadblocks, right? He doesn't want Trump to be part of it. He doesn't want Republicans being considered, being part of that discussion. And again, you have this sort of desire for bipartisanship that they're playing to. And I hope Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats don't bite. I hope they say, all right, we're going to have a bipartisan commission, but Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy aren't going to be the ones who decide what Republicans are on that commission, because you can absolutely have a bipartisan 50-50 commission with Republicans that aren't bought into the insurrection, sedition of the modern Republican Party. So that's what I would do if I was the Democrats, and just quit trying to play this. Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell don't get to talk about bipartisanship, not when they enabled and continue to enable the big lie and this insurrection that we just suffered through.
What do you make of the evidence so far that the Pentagon and those at the Pentagon were resistant to the National Guard coming to the Capitol, as if it almost, some of the languages was said at the hearing. I mean, none of this has been proven yet, but the implication is that there were those at the Pentagon who didn't want the Capitol to be protected.
Yeah,
and just let it go.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. And like you said, I mean, we still don't have proof yet, right? This is all preliminary information, but there was a reason that Donald Trump was purging the Pentagon and the intelligence agencies after he lost. I mean, he was putting his people, he was putting Devin Nunes's people into positions of leadership in both the Pentagon and the CIA, I believe, too. Because they were trying to push Haskell out. They're trying to push. I mean, they were setting the pieces in place for a coup, and we saw it happen. Like, it wasn't. We saw it happen in real time. It wasn't behind closed doors, and there was zero reason for Trump to be making personnel moves after he lost. The only thing he should have been focused on at that point was transition. Instead, he didn't only stymie the transition, but he worked to move his partisan loyalists, not Republicans, not conservatives, but Trumpkins, right? People loyal to him, the individual, into positions of authority in places like the Pentagon. So it makes absolute sense that then the Pentagon would do its best to further the insurrection by refusing to send aid. I mean, there's probably people in the Pentagon that were hoping that Mike Pence would be executed. I don't think there's any doubt that that was the goal.
I can't imagine what they thought that would lead to. I mean, if people were assassinated, did they think that Trump would then remain president? I mean, what?
Yeah, they did. There was this fantasy fueled by Q that that there was this mass of support, this silent majority in the country that would rise up, and that the military would back this grab of power and carry Trump back to office. The military, the police, and that was the idea, that there was enough massive popular support in the military and in the country that it would support the coup. Crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, that's insane. And not even contemplate that if it went that far, there would even be divisions within military authority. I mean, it would just be chaos. But then, I think we underestimate the desire that those have for anarchy too. I mean, ultimately, these people, they don't really want the government to function. So even if it went to a state of anarchy, they probably wouldn't mind that. Yeah, you kill the vice president, kill the speaker of the house, and que sera, as long as there's anarchy.
That's a great point, and that's a differentiation between the Trumpy hidden deplorable types and old school Republicans, right? Because old school Republicans actually they want power for a reason. They want power for lower taxes and to get goodies for their corporate friends, right? I mean, there's a rationale behind them wanting to win control. The Trump supporters, they're nihilists. They just want their lives suck. They have no hope. Their jobs have been shipped off to other countries. Their counties are addicted. It's meth addiction is rampant, and opiate addiction. There are no prospects of any turnaround economically. I mean, they are living in some real crap conditions, and they look at people, mostly liberals. They live in cities. The cities are prohibitively expensive to anybody who isn't educated, who doesn't have maybe some means already. And so it's like a gated community, and they're on the outs. And so they just want to burn stuff down. And I always go back to Kelly Loeffler running for election in Georgia, and her ads were comparing herself to Attila the Hun. And I always say there's no Hun civilization. There's no Hun art and culture and philosophy and music. You can't go and visit Hun ruins because they didn't build anything. They destroyed. They're nihilists. And so very much these people in that were storming the Capitol, they wanted to destroy. I mean, that is Trump personified. What I can't fathom is why the Republican Party went along with it. Why they didn't. The Democrats handed them a gift of an opportunity to cut off that Trump cancer, and they refused to do it. That's the part that baffles me.
Well, that goes back to what we've been talking about too. I mean, maybe that's the motivation of Ron Johnson. This other fear of Trump primarying them. I mean, still, even when you say that out loud, when I say that out loud, but you had an opportunity to vanquish him forever, so he couldn't primary you, but you didn't do it. But is that what Ron Johnson's deal is? Is he?
No, Ron Johnson's a true believer, right? I mean, he spent 4th of July in Russia with Putin, so he belongs to Putin, just like Donald Trump did. He is 100% one of them. It is. So obviously, if you cut Trump off, you have a rebellion in the party. You're going to be in the wilderness for a couple cycles. It's just inevitable. You're going to be in the wilderness. On the other hand, right now you stick with Trumpism. You're sticking with a base that is older, whiter, and literally dying off in huge numbers. Rural America is dying. Gun ownership, the number of guns sold is record high. The number of gun owners keeps going down. So it's just a smaller group of people buying more and more guns from paranoia. But that culture is a dying culture. It's going away, and it's being replaced, obviously, by younger, browner, people less likely to get married, far more liberal. I mean, you look at the millennials are liberal, and then you look at the Zoomers, they're like another level of liberal, right? And so they are making, they're going in with voters that may not even turn out without Trump on the ballot. I mean, they didn't. Their numbers were significantly lower in the Georgia runoff, and so this idea that you're gonna survive without Trump on the ballot by appealing to Trump voters who are not Republicans, they're nihilists. They just want to burn stuff down, and unless you're talking about burning stuff down, they're probably not interested. So I think like a Marjorie Taylor Greene or a Boebert, they might be interested in, right? Because they're nihilist, burn stuff down, but other Republicans, I suspect, and I may be overly optimistic, but I suspect that we're gonna see a 2022 midterm election that defies historical precedent, which always says that the party in power loses seats in Congress. Party in power in the White House loses seats in Congress. I actually think it's going to be the other way around, because Republicans made their bed with a group of people that I suspect aren't going to even turn out and vote in 2022.